Hello Mustang football fans, and welcome back to another season of SMSU football. We're back again with the Cory Sauter Show here at Studio One. I'm your host, Kelly Loft, Athletic Communications Director at SMSU, and joining us as always, talking Mustang football, is the head coach, Cory Sauter. Throughout this season, we'll talk Mustang football, take a look at highlights and preview each week's games as we take on this tough Northern Sun Intercollegiate Conference season. And as I mentioned, joining us as always is the star of the show, the head coach, Cory Sauter, now beginning his third season on the Mustang sideline as the head coach. And Coach, it's an exciting time of year. There's lots to talk about on this week's show, but you know, you've been through some spring camp since the last time we've been on the air. You've had summer workouts, and here we are now at the beginning of the 2012 season, and just that exciting time of the year.
It is. It's good to be back finally, and it's a lot of work that goes into going into a season. That's the part that a lot of people forget about, is you just think you just show up for those 11 games, but really, football is one of those sports where you probably spend 95% of your time practicing and only 5% of your time playing a game, and so this becomes a fun part for them. Finally, they get to be rewarded for all their work and actually get to see how good they are. And we've had a great off season, and we can talk about that throughout the show. But we really are excited about getting things kicked off again and getting back in the mix.
Hey, you just talked about that, the planning that goes into this 2012 season, and it really began after the Concordia game at the Metrodome last November, because you're already starting to get recruiting going, and you've got some players that you recruited that are playing on this year's team, and you mentioned spring ball. And you know, what is that process that goes on throughout the winter and the spring months preparing for that first game against Minnesota Duluth?
Well, it really starts with recruiting, you know, because in our opinion, recruiting, that's where you win football games. You know, the better players you have, the better off you're going to be on game day. We can't teach our guys to run any faster or catch the ball any better or throw it any better or tackle any better. You do that through recruiting. So just something, you know, that I've learned over the years, you know, being around Glenn Mason and those guys. Recruiting is a 365-day-a-year process, and so we put a lot into this year's class. You know, not only financially, but just overall, we brought in some really good kids, and our whole emphasis was on the defensive side of the ball. You'll see once we talk about the defense that there's going to be some guys that have a chance to play this year, and so that's a pretty good indication that we've got some talent there, and we're going to be able to push forward here in the future. And but you know, recruiting, that's number one. After that, you know, we get into our off-season workouts, and as you mentioned, in the winter, that's going to get our base strength levels where they need to be. We're very, very well attended at that during those sessions, but that carries into spring football and ultimately over the summer. And this summer, we had over 40 guys around, and towards the end of summer, it was probably even closer to 50 to 60. So that's been probably our best one yet, and that's what we expect. I mean, each year just trying to get a little bit better, more guys involved, more guys around to really help us make that next step. And everyone's working hard across the conference. It's just who's going to work harder and who's willing to work harder.
Yeah, you talk about the recruiting aspect of it, and the numbers show the proof of that, with over 115 student athletes on your roster here as we start up this 2012 fall season. And the camp started up the second week of August. Coach, you've had a couple of weeks now. We're just a week away from that first game against the Bulldogs of Minnesota Duluth, who is coming into the game ranked number 2 in the country and defending champions of the conference and preseason pick to win this year as well. But we'll talk more about the Bulldogs later on in the show. But talk about how fall camp has gone so far, Coach, and kind of the things that you tried to implement here in the next you know, couple of weeks here, the last 2 weeks that you've had of camp.
Right. Well, we started August 10th, and so really that first week we wanted to install our entire offense, our entire defense, and entire special teams, and really get it all out there so that we can see what we can do, what we can't do. And so we had our two-a-days and all that going on during that part of that first week. Like I said, just a lot of reps, and those kids were getting worked pretty heavily, just physically, probably beyond what you should be, but you know, we wanted to find out what they're capable of doing. The second week, we definitely pared it down, because we wanted to make sure we get our guys fresh and get our guys recovered from some of those bumps and bruises along the way, and we need to get our receivers' legs fresh and all that for our first game. So really, our second week was about just going back, fine-tuning things that corrections from mistakes of our first week, and then that leads us to where we're at right now, and essentially it's game week. And so we had an opportunity to get a couple extra practices on Duluth. We've watched them all off season, so we as coaches have a good idea what they're going to do, but we wanted to get that implemented for our players so that they can start practicing and getting themselves ready to go. And so it's a process. We started really hard. We eased down and pared it down so that we're peaking at the right moment, which is next Thursday. And we did implement some things to try to get our team together, get our team competitive. That was one thing that I thought we just needed to increase, just within our team. And last off season, I sat down with every player on our team and just asked them what do we need to do to make that next step. And we get a lot of different answers. Trust me, they're anything from a pregame meal to anything in between. And so one of the things that came up was we wanted to have a little more competition, just within practices and within our team, and understand that everything that we do, we have to compete. And so that was a reoccurring theme. The other thing is just the ability to pull everybody together and really have that team family atmosphere. And we weren't bad, but I thought we could get better at that. So we included some things in training camp. They're really nothing special, but for whatever reason, kids love it. And so one day we went out for a practice in the morning. We called them up, they stretched and did everything, called them up, and we canceled practice, and we just went right into a game of capture the flag. And we just divided the teams up with, offense and defensive players within the same team, and they had a blast. I mean, they went for about a half hour, and it took a little longer than I thought, actually. And but trust me, we got after it. We actually got something out of it. The kids got some conditioning in. They had some strategy involved with that, and they had fun, and that's the main thing. But so that was a positive. They really enjoyed that. We had another night where we played a trick on them as well, and we were ready to go to meetings. We called the meetings off, and we went to the movie theater. And I swear you gave them each kid $1 million, because I mean they were just blown away. And you go to a movie, it costs $6 to $8, and they just absolutely loved that as well. And then we capitalized finalized our training camp by going over to the Pizza Ranch and feeding our guys. We just thought it was just a good reward for them for all the work that they put in. Again, they started to catch on to some things because word gets out, and we have a couple guys that work at the Pizza Ranch, so that was a hard one to keep quiet. We actually had to play that one off a few different ways to try to create a smoke screen and all that. But all in all, it was a good camp. I think they enjoyed it. It was a lot different than other ones that we've had in the past, and I think they need that instead of always doing the same thing all the time.
And he said it's a lot of football there before school starts, and there's not as many two-a-days as there were back in the
glory days.
Back in the mid-'90s and whatnot. But things obviously get to be a grind, and to mix it up is really a good idea. And the guys are fresh and ready to go for the Bulldogs here the next week or so. August 30th, the first game at the Regional Event Center, starting at 6 p.m., 6 o'clock Thursday night against Minnesota Duluth. The Bulldogs enter the game ranked number 2 in the country. You are watching the Cory Sauter Show here at Studio One and at smsumustangs.com. And Coach, we've kind of talked about the off season and some of the fall practice things. Now let's look at the 2012 Mustang football squad, and we'll first start off on the offensive side of the football. And last year the Mustangs putting up a lot of points, averaging over 27 points per game or around that area. You've got a lot of guys back on the offensive side, some starters, 10 starters back. And let's talk about the Mustang offense, because that's got some very good players on that side of the football, and actually on both sides, but a lot of veterans back on the offensive side.
Yeah, well, when you bring that many guys back from a year, in theory, you should be better, and that's my biggest caution that we had as far as our message to our offense. You know, what we did last year was last year, and you still have to earn every single first down. You still got to perform each and every week, and so my biggest fear is our guys think that they have all the answers now and are going to go out and think that things are going to become easy for them. Well, you're still going to have to work just as hard or even harder to get those same numbers, and we don't want to just have the same numbers. We want to get better. So it's one of those things. I think we're going to be really hard and critical on our offensive players because we just expect a lot out of them. And as you know, it all starts up front. And you know, we've got essentially our whole offensive line back. And you know, with that being said, the key with that is just playing as a unit together, and as much as we can during the season, if we can keep, you know, those 5 guys together and healthy, that's really going to help us out, because offensive line play is all about getting 5 guys playing together as one. You know, you can't have 5 individuals that are good, and you've got to have that communication, that line of understanding and trust between each other. So that's where it really all starts. We've got some good guys up front. I mean, Puffer is a dominant center, you know, one that we feel is going to be very good for us. You know, our guards are really, really solid, you know, with you know, Thiel and Knockmoose. On the outside, you know, we've got Kyle Johnson, who's a very athletic tackle, has performed very well over the years now, and is a veteran, as well as John Cox on the left side. So really we feel solid across the board there, and then we've got some guys that have some snaps, some guys don't at the backup role. So again, we got to stay healthy, and we got to make sure we stay together. And
that's one thing I was going to mention. It got much better last year, but you do have some depth on that offensive line as well. Alex Cedro played some last year. You have Austin Nichols, and you know, like you said, you got to stay healthy, but could be things could come up, injuries, and you need to have that. And that's one thing that's improved over the past few years, is having that depth. And that offensive line really did a great job last year. And we look now more at the tight end position, Coach, the receiver-wise, some very skilled players back there as well. Again, the Mustangs return the top receivers from last year, their top 6 receivers last year, and reception-wise, top 2 rushers as well. But we talk about the receivers and the tight ends. You have Cody Condon, Will Kirka, and then a plethora of guys at the wideout position as well that led the team last year. Tyler Erickson, Britt Wickett, Anthony Dean. These guys are all going to be counted on to help stretch that field, and then the tight end spot to help block as well.
Yeah, you know, you look at our tight end spot with Cody Condon and Kirka, and Cole Oswald is in the mix as well. So really those 3 guys we can do a lot with. I mean, we can line them up as a tight end. They're athletic enough where we can split them out as a receiver. We can put them in the backfield. So they're really kind of a interchangeable part, you know. And so, you know, our goal is to get our best players on the field, and that position has been pretty solid for us last year, and we look for the same thing this year. On the perimeter, you know, those guys, you know, we don't have, you know, guys that run 4.3, 4.4, and anything like that, but they're all very solid. They've got great hands. They've got the ability to make plays when the ball's in the air, and the most important thing is they just understand our system. I think that takes care of a lot of problems. So as long as they're able to line up properly, run the right routes, you know, understand the concepts, why they're doing what they're doing, because sometimes they're going to be the primary receiver, sometimes they're going to be essentially a decoy, and so they just have to understand what their role is for that particular play. But all in all, they've all taken snaps, you know, really in our 2 deep across the board, and we feel comfortable playing any of them, and that's a good thing to have. And we talked about a lot last year, but just so many guys catching a ball. You know, it's not just we have one feature guy where everybody in the stands knows where the ball's going to be thrown on 3rd down. Really, anybody could become a big part of that.
Yeah, there were several times last year, Coach, we had 7, 8 different receivers caught a pass in a single game, and it was varied, and a lot of guys stepped up and made some of those plays. As you mentioned, Tyler Erickson, Britt Wickett, Anthony Dean, Adam Olson, Abe Koss, Jordan Cross. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are going to, you know, make some plays this year, and it's great to have that much depth. And the backfield now, obviously, some seniors there, Coach. You've got Warren Matthews, Gannon Moore in the running back position, quarterback. Tyler Prashong is back as well as his second year as a starter, and you have Tyler Tondrum as well that got some rushes last year, and that obviously is great to have those veteran guys in the offensive backfield.
Yeah, pretty much most of those guys came in when I first got here, and it's just fun watching them progress over the years. They've been in the same offense for their entire career, and you can tell. I mean, they understand what we expect. They know they're exactly where they need to be. The part that a lot of times gets forgotten about is their ability to pass protect and create some things that way. So they're all very good. I mean, they're guys that can block, catch, run, do it all. They're very athletic, and just one of those positions we've kind of taken for granted almost over the years, just because they've been just so solid. And we expect some big things. I mean, those guys are really primed and ready to have a breakout year, all of them. And I think we're going to be very solid at that position, as you well know. Yeah,
Tyler Prashong last year led the conference in passing yards and in total offense. Threw for 20 touchdowns last year, over 2,600 yards passing, and also running the football, 400 yards of rushing yards, and also had 7 touchdowns. And mentioned Warren Matthews, Gannon Moore last year combined to rush for over 1,000 yards and 11 touchdowns between those two rushing the football. So exciting time there for Mustang offense. We go now to the special teams coach, and we've got a veteran back there, an upperclassman now, Mike Wenk, who last year set a school record for punt average, for yardage. He also does a great job of getting that ball inside the 20-yard line. Also handles the kicking duties, field goals. It's kind of a slash there with Lance Schuweiler doing the kickoffs as well. But it's good to have those guys back. And also, obviously on the return team, you've got a Warren Matthews and Tondrum and guys as well.
Right. Well, the punt team is always the one that is probably the most important in that first game. And it is every week, but especially that first game. And with Wank back there, he has the ability to just give us that consistency that you're looking for. There's going to be some times where we're going to be 3 and out on offense, and we've got to get it out of our side of the field and get us in good field position. As you mentioned, he has the ability to pin guys inside the 10 as well, and so we feel very solid with Mike. He's been rock solid for us his entire career, and he's somebody that takes great pride in what he does. He's not one of those guys that just gets by. I mean, he's working his tail off trying to make himself better, and so we're going to be just fine at that punting spot. He also handles our our field goals. We've made big strides last year. We were making field goals, we were making extra points, doing all that. That was back on track from 2 years ago, and where we didn't make any field goals. And then with our kickoffs, Lance has done a nice job there as far as getting consistent kicks, near the hash, outside the hash, and keeping it in play. And so that, I think that's just all around, having 2 veterans, handling that part of it makes our job a lot easier, going into ball games. Return game, we've always had a threat to score or cross the 50-yard line a lot on some of our kickoff returns. Same thing, I want to get our punt return games, in a similar fashion, create some big plays. We had some big plays for us and against us last year in some of those things, and we've got to make sure that we just create a few more this season. I think we have the guys to do it. It's just a matter of taking advantage of those certain opportunities when they present themselves.
We are watching the Cory Sauter Show. It's our preview edition. The Mustangs open up the regular season on August 30th at home against Minnesota Duluth, 6 o'clock kickoff at the Regional Event Center. We've got 6 home games this season on the 11-game schedule for the Mustangs, and new this year, all 11 games, conference games here in 2012 as the conference has expanded to 16 teams. We talked about the offense, we've talked about special teams. Now let's look on the defensive side, Coach. And there are some solid returners coming back. There are some veterans that have had a lot of snaps in the defensive side of the football, but also some newcomers as well that are going to make some impacts this year on the defensive side.
Well, there is, and when you look at our incoming freshman class, most of them were defensive players. I mean, the guys that we had, some of the mid to higher scholarships were on defense, and of that group, we're probably going to have 3 to 4 that could play this year. In the secondary, Drew McReynolds will be a guy that will be in the 2 deep. He has proved himself. He has an opportunity as well in the return game, so he'll for sure be one guy. Graham Ketterling was a surprise coming into camp. He's a guy that when he visited, he was 220 pounds, 225. Now he's 255 pounds and has really matured and has an opportunity to play, in a starting role. And so he's going to be a guy that's going to be right up in there in that 2 deep. At linebacker, Blake Pennick is a guy. He's not a true freshman. He's a second-year player. He's got 4 years of eligibility from Ellsworth. He's very athletic, very smart. He's a guy that you tell him once and he gets it figured out, and you don't see the same mistake twice. We also brought in Deshaun Miller, a junior college player, at another linebacker spot. So he has come along very well. The tough thing with him is he came in this summer where he didn't have spring ball and all that to go through. So he has really progressed a lot faster than we thought he would, and he's going to be right up in that starting role. So those are for sure guys. Garrett Lilly from Texas, a true freshman. He had a little bit of a knee issue, so we'll see where he's at. But he's right up in there in that 2 deep as far as on our depth chart. And so he's coming along very nicely as well. And so I couldn't be happier. There's also, some other guys too that potentially could move up, but most likely we're redshirt, and maybe a year or 2 from now we'll be in the mix. So we're very happy with that progress, and just overall defensively, we've made some improvements there. Yeah,
you look on the defensive line as well. Mark Schulmeyer, a veteran, coming back, and also a new player on the defensive end position would be AJ Page, who's been in the program here the last couple of years. But you need to put pressure on the quarterback, and that's one thing that hopefully those guys can do on the ends, along with, as you mentioned, the defensive tackles as well.
Right. Well, with Schulmeyer, with him being healthy, and with the addition of AJ Page, I mean, we should be able to create some pressure on quarterbacks. I mean, we have a tough time blocking them. I mean, we've gone against him, those guys over the years, and we struggle. So they will hopefully play to that level and create some turnovers, create some strips, create some hurried throws by the quarterback. So we should be much better up front. Jake Lefso is a very athletic tackle that can run and is strong, and he is a guy that with a high motor. So just across the board, I think our defensive line this year is much improved. You got to stop the run, you got to do all that, but I think just overall, those guys are going to be one that's going to make some things happen.
All right, well, Coach, we've talked offense, we've talked defense, we've got special teams as well, and now we got the Bulldogs coming to town here in a week, August 30th, as the Mustangs take on UMD at the Regional Event Center. And overall, before we even look into that game, let's talk about your captains. Every year, late in fall camp, you elect your captains, and we've got 4 great student athletes again this year representing your football squad.
Yeah, we sure do. We elected them at one of our team meetings, and it has to be an upperclassman, and also we have our upperclassman vote. We don't have the freshman vote just because they've only been here for a couple weeks and they really don't know the players as well. So we have both of our offensive players from last year, captain-wise, returning. So Tyler Pashong and Warren Matthews will be our offensive captains. On defense, we have Mark Schulmeyer and Joe Stupka. So four really good quality kids that are going to be able to lead our guys, get us going. They're all a little bit different in their own way, but that's good. You can't have everybody the same. Some guys are a little more vocal than others.
All right, well, Coach, it should be an exciting week as the Mustangs get ready to take on the Bulldogs. Again, 6 o'clock kickoff at the Regional Event Center. The Mustangs coming off a season last year with 3 victories, but a lot of close ball games that just couldn't go our way, and hopefully we can turn those around this year, and the Mustangs can get back in there in the win column more often than not. Again, the Cory Sauter Show will be each week here at Studio One here in Marshall, and also at smsumustangs.com. We'll air the shows on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday nights throughout this 2012 season. For more information on Mustang football, go to our website, smsumustangs.com, and click on the football tab, and it'll get all the information you want, game notes, roster stats, and history, and a whole lot more at smsumustangs.com. Coach, thanks for getting back here again this year, and good luck, and we're really excited to see the Mustangs on the field. And as you mentioned before, just looking for that great support. We've had it throughout the years here at the Regional Event Center from our fans, and hopefully that will continue this year as well, because I know it's very important not only to your staff but to the players as well.
Well, it is, you know. You want to have home field advantage, and the only way you do that is getting that support. And we have had a tremendous fan base, not only at home but on away games, and we just want to continue that. One thing of note, for our first game against Duluth, we will also have a fundraiser for the Drake Bigler Memorial Fund. And so all it is we're going to have root beer floats for sale. It's a $2 minimum donation, and all the proceeds will go directly to the Bigler family. So I just wanted to plug that and make sure everyone has an opportunity to give to that family based, you know, with what has happened here in our community, and we want to give our total support to the Bigler family.
That's great. All right, Coach. Well, best of luck this year, and we'll talk in a couple of weeks after that first ball game, and have a great season here on the Cory Sauter Show. Thanks for watching this week's episode. Until next time, remember, go Mustangs.